character. The character that I wanted to tell you about is a man by the name of Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon is a man. Have you heard of him?
From the Haggadah.
Yes, from the Haggadah. Where does he feature in the Haggadah?
Wasn't it when they were sitting in Bnei Brak?
That's right. He was one of the people sitting in Bnei Brak.
Good job.
That's a good job. Yeah, well done.
That finally sank in after all these years.
That's right. Do you remember who he was sitting with? He was sitting with one of the people.
Rabbi Akiva.
Rabbi Akiva.
Rabbi Tarfon.
Yeah, I actually can't
Rabbi.
remember to myself.
Sorry.
I can't remember the other two themselves. Is it Rabbi Yeshua?
Don't think so.
I do remember that it was Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva. Now, it's important. Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva are actually two really close friends.
Mm-hmm.
They initially, Rabbi Tarfon was more of like a teacher to Rabbi Akiva, but towards the end of their lives, it kind of switched. Rabbi Akiva became more of the teacher to Rabbi Tarfon. So there's a few stories, but one that comes to mind of their. So Rabbi Tarfon was a particularly wealthy man. It's interesting.
Okay.
With many of the rabbis of the Mishnaic era, they were somewhat extreme in the sense that excuse me, that many of them were extremely wealthy and many of them were extremely poor. There was a man, Rabbi Yeshua, who was a colleague of Rabbi Tarfon, and then he was the Avot. He was extremely poor, and each of them, it's almost like you feel that was their role. You know, like you think of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the author of the Mishna, was supposedly the second wealthiest man after the emperor of Rome at the time. That's how wealthy he was.
Yeah.
So Rabbi Tarfon's got a history of being a very wealthy person, besides for a tremendous scholar. So one time Rabbi Akiva comes up to him and says, "Hey, I've got a proposition for you. How would you like to buy 2 cities? And it costs you just 4,000 gold coins." So trusting Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon takes the 4,000. He takes 4,000 gold coins and he gives it to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva goes, and he gives. He finds hundreds of people that want to study. He sets up a yeshiva, and there are people that want to study but can't afford it, and he sets up 2 yeshivas and supports them. A short while later, Rabbi Tarfon comes back to him and said, "Hey, what's these 2 cities that you purchased? Can I see them? Can I see my investment?" So Rabbi Akiva says, "Sure," and he takes them to the 2 yeshivot. And Rabbi Tarfon is so ecstatic over the lesson that he's learned. He says, "Oh, look, these are your cities and the future generations, the great investment that you've made." And I'm sure some people would have been somewhat upset, but Rabbi Tarfon, having had respect and trust for Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva appreciating, thinking that he would do something that Rabbi Tarfon truly impressed, Rabbi Tarfon was overjoyed. And he took, he gave a big kiss to Rabbi Akiva and he says, "You're my teacher. You were my student, but you really are my teacher and my close friend." So Rabbi Akiva, that's one of their stories of their relationship. A few other stories, because I just love the character of Rabbi Tarfon. We're told that he had an extreme level of respect for his mother. What does that mean? Excuse me, what does that mean? It means that for some reason it doesn't say much about his father. I don't know if that's because his father passed away at a young age or what the reason was, but the respect from his mother was he's given as one of the great examples of going out of your way, crazy respect for his mother. He would when she would get onto her bed, he would bend down so she can step on his back. He would, the one time they were walking and the strap of her shoe broke, and he refused to let her walk with her feet directly on the ground. So he put his hands and feet down and made her walk, and told her to walk on her hands. He didn't want her to get hurt and cut her feet on the ground when her sandals broke. Extreme examples. The only other person that I can actually think of that we have examples of the extremity of the respect that he had for his mother, was actually the Rebbe. There's actually a video on Chabad.org. The Rebbe we know had such extreme respect for his mother that as long as his mother was, first of all, he only left from when he arrived in the US and he escaped the Holocaust. He only left the US once, or even left New York, I believe it was only once, and that was to go and find his mother in Paris before he became Rebbe. He went to get his mother from Paris, and he spent a long time there trying to do all the documents to bring her back. And then when she came to New York, the Rebbe never missed a single day of going to visit her, and he would spend at least half an hour every day, and he tried to be at the exact same time that she shouldn't be disappointed. There was a guy that used to take care of the Rebbe's mother, and he once came and he sees the Rebbe was still in the room. So some people didn't like to visit the Rebbe's mother, or he would take care of the Rebbe's mother. He wasn't comfortable, and the Rebbe was just leaving. And when he left, the Rebbe left in a strange way, and he started walking backwards and like adjusting all the picture frames and making everything straight, walking backwards away from his mother. When the Rebbe left, the Rebbe's mother saw that the guy was like somewhat bewildered at the Rebbe's behavior, walking backwards and adjusting pictures and stuff. She said, you probably are think it's a little bit strange, my son's behavior. So he said, yeah, what was he doing? He said, since his bar mitzvah, which was some like 30 years earlier, I have not seen his back. He has never turned his back towards me. And people knew that every single day he would go, no matter how busy his schedule was, he would be in the middle of all night, this is after he even became Rebbe, all night individual audiences, and every single day he would go at some point, run out to his mother, spend time, and then come back. And something special. Anyway, something that just reminded me of this concept was Rabbi Tarfon. He was also the extreme of this concept. Actually, the one time he got sick, and his mother came to the study hall to where his colleagues were, and she said to them, "My son has the greatest respect. He's a great scholar, but he has the greatest respect. Please daven in the merit of all of his respect." And then she started to tell him stories. When they heard all these stories, he said, wow, he's definitely got incredible respect for his mother. But you should know that if we were to really be able to achieve what the Torah already mandated from us or wanted for us, it would be even more than that. To know that, I don't know what the lesson for that was, but to teach us how important and how much we can do for our parents. I want to say one or two more things. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said about Rabbi Tarfon that he was like a pile of walnuts. Why was he like a pile of walnuts? He says because if you take out one walnut from the bottom, the whole pile will collapse. If you would ask Rabbi Tarfon a question, he says, he would just give you thousands of points, and all of that were held together. And if you took one else, the whole concept would fall. So you'd have to get all the different ideas that he taught. It was Mishnas and Midrashim and Psukim and verses. And this whole thing, he would build an incredible edifice. And each thing piled one on the top of the other, like a beautiful pile of walnuts. It's an interesting explanation. Right, let me just tell you one or two more last points about his history. Then let's go into what he actually says, because he's got a really powerful lesson. He says, one more thing is, he also taught us the power of listening to your colleagues. The law is that we go via majority. Now, there was a debate, by the way, even though he was such a close friend of Rabbi Akiva, he often disagreed with him in halachic ruling. And there was a debate. It says in the Shema, we're supposed to say the Shema 2 times a day. In the morning and the evening, it says, Vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, You should teach it to your children. You should speak of them. That's to study Torah. And you should say the Shema. B'shivtecha b'beitecha, when you're sitting in your house. V'lechecha v'derech, when you travel on the way. B'shachbecha, when you lie down. U'v'kumecha. Now, he said, and so did a few other of his colleagues say, that means that when you say the Shema, you have to be, for the nighttime, you have to lie down. You can't say it standing. His colleagues, most of the colleagues, argued and they said, no, it just means the time of the night, but not that you have to lie down. So therefore, the halacha was, and it still is, that you don't lie down for saying the Shema. It's actually better not to lie down so you don't make it as though you're going according to that opinion. Rabbi Tarfon says, I was once traveling in the way and it was nighttime. And I decided to go according to my opinion and be stricter. I didn't go against them. I lied down when I said Shema for the nighttime. He says, and as I did that, while I was saying the Shema, I was attacked by robbers. And thank God I got out. But the lesson to me was, don't ever do anything against the majority. When the majority make a rule, that should remain the rule. And if you try to follow even like a stringency in such a area, then you shouldn't do it. And they actually, he always stopped doing it. From there, he learned that you can argue with his colleagues, but if he's not in the majority, the majority is what must be followed. And that's remained a very important law that we've learned from Rabbi Tarfon and from other circumstances. That was the era where this, any people that try to, so to speak, challenge the concept of going after the majority, these were the stories that were presented to kind of teach us that that's not the right way to go about it. Okay, so that's a little bit about Rabbi Tarfon. The Talmud has many more stories about him, but let's get into it for a moment. He actually has a relatively short but powerful statement. We have two Mishnah from him. Today we'll just do 15, even though both 15 and 16 are very connected, but both from Rabbi Tarfon. So what does Rabbi Tarfon say? He would say, the day is short. Hayom katzer. Day is short. This is the story of my life. I could refer to this law probably more than anything else. You know, I don't know about you, but I always have a list of things that I want to get done, and after I've done the first few things on the list, the day's over. And I'm like, how come? So he starts off with telling us basically day is short. V'amlacha meruba, there's tons of work to get done. V'apolim atzerim, and the workers are lazy. Ba'asachar harbe, but there's great reward. Ubala bayis doichek, and the master is pressing. What is he trying to say? What is he actually talking about? Anybody want to give a little bit of insight? What you think he's talking about? You could figure it out. Come on, Mark. David? What do you think he's talking about? What is the day that is short?
Not enough time.
Not enough time. So, not enough time. So there's the basic way of understanding, and there's the more deeper way. There's lots of ways to understand it. But the basic way, you could just say, is that he's saying, it's just telling us a few facts. The facts are, you don't have time, you always have lots of work, and you hire people to do work for you, and then they're lazy, and they don't get the work done, and we press them to get more done. And it's funny, today I was so rushed, and I'm so behind on what I normally have to get done today. So that's why, as I was saying, I thought I might even cancel the shiur, but I pushed it, still behind, but I didn't want to cancel because I cancelled another shiur earlier this week already. So
yeah, because you're lazy.
That's right. Sometimes I thought, but then I thought, does it mean that I'm lazy? You know, I didn't want to be lazy. So the Mishna woke me up. I had no choice. So here's the main understanding, the basic main understanding of it. It says, what is Hayoim? Hayoim means our lifetime. Our lifetime is short. We have a big mission to accomplish in our lifetime. And we are the workers. And at times we could not be bothered to do the work that we were born to do, the mission that we would do. It takes work. The Balabais, I'm going to skip the next word. The Balabais is God. He's knocking on the door, trying to convince us and push us and put things in our lives to help us achieve more and more and more. And at the end of the day, we're lazy. So how do we overcome it? By remembering that God is putting things there to pressure us, and also remembering that the benefit of hard work outweighs all the hardship. So Hasachar Harber tells us, yeah, you're lazy, we're struggling, it's hard. But there's lots and lots of reward. I think it's a really powerful statement. So let's just look at it a little bit from a different perspective. There's a great story of one of the great rabbis from, I think he was in the 1800s. Reb Dov of Rochitz, his name was. And he would go traveling around. He was like a Hasidic leader, Rebbe. And wherever he went, as soon as it became dawn, he would run around and start saying, wake up, a guest has arrived, has arrived. And everyone would wake up and come up to the great rabbi and say, who's the guest? And he would say, today has arrived, a guest. He's coming today and he'll be gone tomorrow. And he'll never come back again. Use him out. So it's a little bit of a scary and anxiety-provoking statement. But it's an important one to remember that life is short, time is precious, every moment is unique. I think that's one of the main lessons that he's trying to teach us over here. It's all about, I don't know if you guys ever went to like an overnight camp or a camp, and they in overnight camps in America, that's what they're doing right now, the summer, and they often have as this prize, they have what's called the canteen. And in the canteens, they would, they as a prize would be, like one of the best prizes that we would give the kids is that they can go into their canteen and eat as much as they can for a certain amount of time. So as much lollies, but they're not allowed to take anything out. Whatever they're there, they have as much time as they want they can eat as much as they want, but in a very limited amount of time. So it's like 5 minutes. Eat as much as you can in 5 minutes, or enjoy as much as you can. So you can just imagine these kids, they're opening the lolly bags and they job, and what ends up happening is they half the time they don't even enjoy it. But at least it's the thrill of it. Like, how much junk can I eat in 5 minutes? Normally what would take you 20 minutes to eat one bag of chips, they're eating 10 of those in 5 minutes, and feel sick afterwards. But it was the fun. There's this Mishna, some of the commentaries said something similar. They say, if you think about Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, he went up to Mount Sinai for 3 times, each time for 40 days. When he was there for 40 days, we actually spoke about it in last week's portion as well. And he says, when I was there for 40 days, I never ate and I never drank. I just sat there learning every single moment. So the commentators give an example. They say, from this Mishnah we learn, he felt that his time was short. He had too much work to do. The rewards and how much you can gain in that short amount of time by being on Mount Sinai was too precious. They say it's an example of a king that has a treasury full of gold and silver. And he tells one of his servants, you have an hour to take as much gold and silver as you want. But after the hour, it's gone. So Moses looked at it and said, I have an hour. I have these 40 days. I'm getting the greatest gold and silver. I'm not going to waste that time on sleeping and eating. The truth is that not necessarily did he didn't even feel the need to eat. It's not as though he was starving, hungry, and he was obviously on a different plane. He was on a very spiritual plane. But he really felt the power of not needing to deal with anything and not wasting a single moment. Not to waste a single moment. So that's the story of our life. What's the story of our life? Imagine you were sent into a place of gold and silver, and you could take whatever you want, but you only had a short amount of time to do it, and after that the time's gone. You wouldn't waste your time doing anything else. And so we're told, Rabbi Tarfon's telling us, you're like Moses on Mount Sinai. We will live forever. Our souls live forever, but the ability to pick up gold and silver is only in this lifetime. If we don't use it out, we won't fulfill the amount that we can. But if we use out every single moment, not guiltily, not in an anxiety way, but just trying to use every moment, we will have an incredible life. A very, very powerful and meaningful life. I want to just pause. I've got a few more things to say about this Mishnah, but if anybody has any arguments or disagreements or anything like that, you'd like to say anything?
How could we possibly argue?
How could you possibly? You could. You know, today's day and age, have you ever heard of essentialism?
Essentialism, yes.
Yes. You've heard of the concept? What's
Certainly,
the name
I'm reading a book on it at the moment.
There's an author. What's the author? He's an English guy. What's his name?
Telling you now,
I read a book on it as well. Anyway, but they have somewhat of a different approach, but I don't think it's a contradictory approach, and that is to focus on the essential concepts and not thinking that you have to do everything. And I just want to bring that into, I don't think it's a contradiction. I think that it's just simply that the idea of essentialism is that we have to figure out what's most essential to us in life and focus and put our emphasis over there and not try to do everything. Okay, I think that's a powerful lesson for many of us, but the concept over here is we have to find those essential things and make use of our time, not waste it, and try to get as much done in our lifetime, not because we're trying to do everything, but when we do things, we do them properly and all the way. And I think that's important. It's a lesson that for me is particularly powerful, because I struggle from what do we call it?
Scatterbrain
and want to do everything at itis. You
Yeah.
know? That's the impossible itis, where you try to do everything and end up doing very
Nothing.
little of anything good.
Yeah. Greg McKeown, is that the guy you were thinking of?
It sounds right. I think so. I read the book Essentialism.
Yeah, I'm busy reading it at the moment.
Yeah, it's a good one. I don't agree with everything, but most of it, I think that it's a powerful concept. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at this idea over here, where we're thinking about our lifetime and what we want to accomplish, this is a very almost like a scary Mishnah, because it tells us, you know, you got a lot that you can do. What's it telling you? The reward is powerful. The reward is really strong. In other words, if you put in your effort, but you have to know what you're trying to do. And I think the biggest part of it is remembering that as people, no matter who we are, we have a lot that we can accomplish in our lifetimes. And basically, it's also telling us, you're going to see, if you look in the next Mishnah, I really like the next Mishnah as well, but we'll talk about it more at length next time, on a similar concept. I'll just share my screen quickly, because it's important to put them together. If he says he would also say, it is not incumbent upon you to finish the task, but neither are you free to absolve yourself from it. Okay? So
They say nobody dies.
Continuation. We'll talk about it more at length next week. But, sorry, what were you saying?
So they say nobody dies with an empty in tray.
That's right. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But, you know, it's always this thing where as kids we used to say, what was the saying? Nothing's perfect, so if you're not going to get it perfect, why try? What's the statement I'm trying to think? The point over here is to conclude this whole thing, that as lifetimes we have to try to figure out where it is that we can achieve the most. And if we put in the emphasis in those areas where we do have the ability to pull the most, then v'asachar harbe. So the sachar harbe means the reward is great. What does it mean, the reward? The reward is both in this world, that we benefit from our hard work in this world, with our children, with our families, with ourselves, we'll have a much more meaningful life, but also in the world to come. And the Balabai Sterchach, if you look in the previous Mishna over here, the connection is between the two Mishnah. Every Mishnah is always connected to the previous one. It also talks about, once again, the reward, that you have to remember that there's a person, or there's a creator, that is there, that is going to pay your reward. So never think that we go and we work hard our entire lives, so we put in this effort and we try to help people, and sometimes you try to help people and you're unsuccessful. That's the next one going to tell us. You could be unsuccessful, but no matter what it is, you're going to get the reward. There's some reward, whether you see it. Sometimes you'll see it both in this world and the next world, but sometimes the reward will only come about in the world to come, and others you'll never see it. One last commentary, and then I'll just conclude with the story, unless anybody has any other things to say. My last commentary on this is that it says over here, Hayom Katzer. Now here's a little bit of a disappointing point for some of us. It tells us the Yom is when we have less responsibilities. It's telling us, actually, it's talking about study. Sometimes we have time that we're free from too much obligation. We don't have much responsibility, especially, like, for example, when you're young and your parents are still taking care of many of your bills. You don't have much to pay for. So the Torah tells us, if you want to send your kids to study and to learn and to grow, the time to do that is when they're young, before they get married, before they have all that responsibility. Because afterwards in life it's much harder. But nevertheless, we always have times of day. Times of darkness is when we're packed with responsibilities and headaches. That's the time. And the time of light, as soon as you have any moment that you could grasp a moment to learn something or to do a mitzvah or to help somebody, do it. Because later on you're going to miss out the chance. It will become dark. It will be too late at night. You can't help them anymore. Or you'll be too busy. You'll have too many other responsibilities. You have an opportunity to join a shir, to help somebody, to give some charity, to give whatever it is. Look for those moments, because there'll be another time that the opportunity will come about, but you won't have the ability to do it. So if you have the ability to join in a shir, or to help somebody, or to do a mitzvah, or to go to shul, or whatever it is, take advantage of the opportunities to do that, because they don't last forever. There will be times that you won't be able to do it. And those, particularly when it's older, when we're younger, in certain ways we have more opportunities. When we're older, it's harder. We may have more time when we're older because we have less responsibilities. Maybe when we're retired, but at the end of the day, that's much harder to do many of those things when we're older. So we've got to take advantage of those moments. And just a last little story with sometimes we do things and we don't see the benefit of it. There was once at the Rebbe we still do this in Chabad, it's called Merkah Shlichus. They send out Bachrim, they send out young students, that's generally from age 20 and up till they get married, so between 20 and 25 you can say, and they get sent either during the time of the Chagim of Pesach and Rosh Hashanah, etc., to communities that have small communities. They can't justify a full-time couple, but they still have Jews there, kind of like a Rara thing. And then in the summer as well, they have the Bachrim, they have break from Yeshiva, they'll drive around to these obscure places, and so it was known as Merkah Shlichus. Anyway, the one year there was a bunch of Bachrim that had gone out into a bunch of rural towns, and they had traveled around for many days and had found no Jews, and they came back feeling absolutely deflated and as though they had wasted their time. And they wrote this into the Rebbe. And the Rebbe gave a talk that week in Shul, and he said the story that there was Bachrim that went out and they felt like they didn't accomplish and they wasted their time. He said, I want to tell you about a letter that I just received. I received a letter from a lady in the particular town that they were, and the lady said that they had that she was from a Jewish background and she hadn't seen a Jewish person in years. And she saw these boys with black hats and jackets walking down the street. And that reminded of her of the shtetl and about all that she was brought up in the Judaism in at home that she hadn't even thought of for many years. And it brought her back all the memories, and because of that she found out about Chabad, and she's doing research and trying to remember all the things she's done. She said, and these Bachrim, they don't even know what they accomplished, and they think they accomplished nothing. And the point, I think it's a really powerful story, that sometimes we do things, we put in the effort, and we feel like it was a waste of time. But the truth is that we never know what the real repercussions of our work is, and how sometimes we are achieving a lot more than what we really think. Okay, that's my say for the day. If anybody else wants to make any comments or anything else, please feel free.
I've only got 2 words, Rabbi.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thanks
Thanks
for
for
joining, guys. And sorry for the last minute message, but I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah,
Thanks for making the
nice.
Thank you.
Thanks for making the time despite Avot.